In the golden haze of the late afternoon, the Astor Estate shimmered with the city's finest. The air, thick with the perfume of jasmine and designer fragrances, promised an evening of polite conversation and social maneuvering. Yet, beneath the polished surface, a different kind of tension simmered, one forged from rumor, jealousy, and a secret that threatened to shatter it all. At the edge of the perfectly manicured lawn stood Alaire, her simple silk dress a quiet rebellion against the boisterous extravagance of the crowd. Despite her reserved demeanor, she was a silent epicenter of every averted gaze and hushed whisper. For months, the formidable Aries Isabella had been watching her, convinced this unassuming artist was a threat to her social standing and, more importantly, to her fiancé, Marcus. What Isabella didn't know was the explosive truth. Marcus was not just her future husband. He was Alaire's arranged older brother, Liam. The fragile peace shattered when Isabella, her face a mask of furious certainty, stormed across the grass. "I know what you've been doing," she hissed, her voice cutting through the gentle hum of conversation like a knife. Without warning, Isabella's hand shot out, the slap echoing across the silent garden, a sharp, shocking punctuation to the afternoon. The gasp of the crowd was a prelude to the true drama about to unfold. The slap wasn't the end, but the beginning of a deep web of secrets, family betrayals, and unspoken truths that were about to unravel for all to see. For one long, breathtaking moment, the only sound was the flutter of a sparrow near the fountain. Then the whispers began, a nervous symphony of disbelief and judgment. Phone cameras clicked, capturing the scarlet mark on Alaire's cheek. She stood perfectly still, her gaze unwavering, not in fear, but in defiance. Just then Marcus appeared, his steps quick and deliberate as he navigated a sea of uneasy faces. He was the city's most powerful architect, and the crowd parted for him instinctively. "Alaire," he said, his voice low and urgent, "are you all right?" He barely spared a glance for Isabella, who stood trembling, her fingers curled as if she could retract her action. "I'm fine," Alaire replied, but her tone held a steeliness that everyone heard. The garden party, once a festive gathering, had become an arena. The air now crackled with a single, unspoken question: what happens next? Isabella's father, Mr. Thorne, stepped forward, forcing a strained smile. "Perhaps we should move inside," he said, his words a desperate attempt to contain the scandal. "Get some water, calm down." But Isabella refused to budge. "You're going to believe her after everything?" she cried, her voice raw with desperation. "She's been lying to you all those secret meetings. She wanted to ruin us." Marcus's reply was a cold, hard truth that silenced crowd. "She is my sister." A collective murmur swept through the gathering. Sister, the word shifted the entire atmosphere. Doubt flickered in the eyes that now watched Isabella. She stumbled over her words. You never said." "She's been hiding." Marcus raised a hand, his authority absolute. "Enough. You've humiliated yourself. You've humiliated her for a baseless rumor." He then turned to Alaire, his voice softening. "Let's go inside the mansion." The silence was heavy. Alaire shook her head, refusing his offer. "No. If I leave now, that's what they'll remember. I didn't do anything wrong." He nodded in agreement. "Then let them watch." Minutes later, Mr. Thorne returned, his expression carefully neutral. "Marcus, this has gotten out of hand. Isabella is distraught. Surely we can avoid further scandal." Alaire spoke first, her voice calm but firm. "Mr. Thorne, I will not be blamed for something I didn't do." He looked at her, finally seeing the fire behind her quiet facade. "Your reputation is tied to ours," he began. She cut him off, her tone sharper. "What about your daughter's actions?" Marcus stood, his posture unyielding. "There's no hiding this. Not anymore. I won't marry someone who attacks my family based on gossip." Mr. Thorne's voice dropped. "I'll talk to Isabella. This isn't who she is." Alaire's eyes met his steadily. "Maybe it is." The two returned to the party, heads held high. The energy had changed. Some watched with new respect, others with quiet resentment. That night, alone in her apartment, Alaire scrolled through her phone. The incident had gone viral. Videos of the slap, the confrontation, and Marcus's revelation were everywhere. Strangers online debated, some siding with Isabella, others with Allaire. For the first time in her life, Isabella was alone. Her friends vanished. Her social media was filled with condemnation, and her father threatened to cut her off unless she apologized. But Isabella, stubborn and blinded by rage, refused. She blamed Allaire, Marcus, and the world for turning on her. Meanwhile, Allaire's small consulting business began to boom. People wanted to work with a woman who had stood her ground with such quiet dignity. She was busier than ever, her calendar packed with meetings. Weeks passed. The city buzzed with new scandals, and the Astor estate ensign began to fade into memory. But for Allaire, everything had changed. She no longer hid her family name. She introduced Marcus openly as her brother, and the world adjusted. She felt a new sense of freedom, as if she had finally stepped out of the shadows. One rainy afternoon, a knock sounded at Allaire's office door. Her assistant announced a visitor. Allaire's heart tightened as she recognized a figure in the hallway. It was Isabella, stripped of all her usual glamour, dressed in a simple blue dress, her eyes rimmed red. "Do you have a moment?" Her voice was small, vulnerable. Allaire hesitated, then nodded. Isabella sat across from her, twisting her hands in her lap. Finally, she looked up, her gaze sincere but unsteady. "I was wrong about everything. I lost everything because I couldn't see past my own jealousy. I'm sorry." Allaire listened, her face unreadable. "You hurt a lot of people, Isabella, not just me." "I know," Isabella's voice cracked. "I'm trying to make it right. I'm working now. No trust fund, no shortcuts. I want you to know that." A moment of quiet understanding passed between them. Allaire nodded, her tone firm but not unkind. "I hope you find what you're looking for." When Isabella left, Allaire let out a deep breath. The air in her office felt different. Clean, unburdened. Isabella's world continued to crumble, forcing her to sell her jewelry and take a receptionist job. She had to learn humility and resilience, to measure her worth by her own effort, not her inheritance. For Allaire, the ensign became a legend. She was invited to speak at conferences and became a quiet symbol of dignity under fire. Through it all, she stayed true to herself and her values. As spring returned, new roses bloomed in the garden where it all began. Allaire walked the paths, sunlight warming her face. The past was no longer a weight, but a lesson. Justice had not come with revenge, but with the undeniable power of truth. And power, for once, had not changed hands through wealth, but through character.